Now, what are you going to do? Because if at the level of ward congresses, there are all these problems you've identified, and even particularly in your case, in Kaduna, this had been building up. The Congress was just the last of a series of events. You alluded to the demolition of Senator Nkuyi's building, which was serving as the secretariat for your group in the party. But the Kaduna state government said it had nothing to do with politics and that the house had been marked because it was in contravention of certain rules and all of that. Before that, there had been this back and forth between yourself and the governor. There was the issue of loan to Kaduna State, which he alleges you instigated your colleagues to deny the state as payback, quote and unquote, for previous transgressions. Now, there was quite a bit. The point is, it is alleged that all this started from the fact that you intend to contest that seat against him next year.
Well, for anyone who cares to know about my history, or for people who have been following my political activism in the last 25 to 30 years, I have always been an activist who speaks my mind and tells truth to power. I have been in the forefront of the struggle for democracy in Nigeria. I have been in the forefront of the struggle for justice, for freedom, and we have, in all facets, engaged the former military governments in Nigeria. And I never relented in speaking out my mind from 1999 to date. And in Kaduna, to be very specific, right from the governor of the state, first governor of the state from 1999, Senator Ahmed Makarfi, to Namadi Sambo, to Yakowa, to Ramalan Yaro, have always been critical of things which I believe when they are being done wrongly. And I was not contesting for the governorship then. But for me to speak out my mind now about my state is the very fact that it's the only state I can call my own, because that was where I was born. So as for me, he could not stomach my opinion and criticisms of his government. And all he did in the last 3 years, he tried to engineer the party within the state to suspend me. And on several occasions, my home and my offices were attacked by thugs. And then Suleiman Hunkwi now became the enemy number 2 of the governor. And when you thought that was done, the other senator from southern Kaduna, who is also from the PDP, now became the enemy number 3 of the governor. About the issue of the loan, Kaduna State wasn't qualified for that very loan. It is the second most indebted state in Nigeria, indebted to almost $225 million. And he was asking us to approve $350 million for him, and then the state will be indebted to over $500 million. A non-oil producing state with very low internal-generated revenue. And I believe that I have to save our children and grandchildren from the chains and shackles of debt, which he wants now to get us involved. But he said it's politics. And then he went ahead to go publicly to call for violence against me and against Suleiman Hunkuyi. So as far as we are concerned, he is going to be out of government.
Are you going to contest against him next year?
I'm going to contest election. It's no doubt about that.
For the governorship?
If I'm not alive. When you say the governorship...
Yes, you're going to contest the governorship because you are in the Senate.
I'm a Democrat now. I'm a Democrat. And I work within a team. And if that very team said that my ambition of being a governor is not what they should support or back for now, then certainly I will contest for my Senate seat for re-election. There is no doubt about that.
But what is your ambition? Let's leave the team for a second.
Well, my own is to do what will be best for my own state. And like I say, I'm a team player. I will love to hold the position to restore order, sanity. Kaduna State is one of the most violent states in Nigeria today. You can't move from Abuja here to Kaduna without your heart being in your throat. People are killed and kidnapped every day in Birningwai local government. Right as we're talking, having this interview here, a massacre has been going on. I received a text message about that. I will contest the governorship of Kaduna State in 2019, but if my team, because I work as a team, said you should go back to the Senate, I will certainly go back to the Senate.
Now, you've made certain allegations against the governor, so I want to take you up on some of them,
Yes.
Because, for example, in the case of the loan, the position of the Kaduna State government, among others, is that the current debt profile of Kaduna State is not as a result of the activities of the current government in Kaduna State. It is the sum total of what has been going on ever since the creation of the state, and it is a result of loans taken by predecessor governments right up until Governor El Rufai took over power in 2015. And that for you to then say that the state is heavily indebted and therefore shouldn't be granted additional loan facilities for which the government says they are qualified, that they went through all the processes, and that in fact among the states of the federation who underwent the process, Kaduna was the lead state, that you didn't put the development of the people first, and that you used your position as chairman of the Senate Committee on Debts to effect the stoppage of that loan. And as for the issue of trying to turn the people of Kaduna against you, that they didn't need to turn them, that the people themselves were already quite upset, that because you saw that this was something that your people would benefit from, and yet because of your personal animosity against the governor, you said no.
Okay. The $250 million debt for Kaduna State is not a debt for the previous administration. It's a debt for the state which we must continue to service and which we are servicing now. Now, we have a governor who is asking for $350 million. That also has to be paid. So does not mean that the previous government pile-up debt is not yours. Are we not paying the $25 million? We are paying from our statutory allocations and the little meager resources which we have at our disposal, And now we have $350 million. Right now, we are the second most indebted state in Nigeria. The first is Lagos. But Lagos is not much of a problem because they have ways to which they can service their debt. Kaduna is second, and Edo State is third. Edo is an oil-producing state, but Kaduna is not. And for our own evaluation is the very fact that if we allow this loan, it's going to be a serious burden to us. This was a governor who has cried that teachers and civil servants and local government staffs were eating the chunk of Kaduna State's federal allocation. Then he retrenched thousands of them. Then what was he doing with the money? And up to today, the governor of Kaduna State has never publicly come out to tell the people of state, this is what I have done with the Paris refund that was given to me, which was more than the money he's asking for from the World Bank. So if the Paris refund that almost total about $400 million could not solve your problem, is it the money that you will borrow, $350 million, that will be paid in 20, 30, 40 years time that will solve your problem? If the excess crude account, the federal allocation given to you, and the bailout funds that were shared to many states could not solve the problem. Must you incur debt for people of Kaduna State? You shouldn't. So as far as we are concerned, it used to be said it was Shehu Sani because I have a personal problem with the governor according to what he is saying. But look at it. The second senator, the third senator, and a section of members of House of Reps were opposed to it. And I can tell you that I have in my office petitions written by different groups and organizations and individuals from our state opposed to the loan. I never had one written statement from any group that was ready to append its signature and read to me officially. So some wrote petitions against the loan. But the approach of the governor is to speak in Kaduna State and try to see how we can. And he has forgotten. You can't incite people against person because he doesn't even have the popularity to support among the people. So he has forgotten the very governor who has demolished houses belonging to thousands of people, who has sacked over 20 to 40,000 people out of their jobs, is the same governor that is asking the people to do his bidding. Can you imagine this kind of... He sold over 30 companies belonging to Kaduna State government that has been there for the past 30 to 40 years. What has he done with the money? He sold public government houses in Kaduna, over 2,000 of them. What has he done with the money? So what the sell-off of public companies, Kaduna State has not solved. What the sell-off of public properties of Kaduna State has not solved. What the bailout fund has not solved. What the Paris refund has not solved. What the executive account has not solved. What the federal allocation has not solved. Is it the debt of $350 million that he wants to impose on Kaduna State that will solve his problem? All that we are saying is that use the resources you have to address the issues that has been confronting the state and also carry out your activities and go. You can't come and incur debt for our people, and when you are done as a governor, you move with your family to Abuja and leave us behind. And he was not living in Kaduna for the past 20 years. He lived in Abuja, and that was why he doesn't have the feel of what was it. And the people are, we are people of Kaduna. We were born in Kaduna. We live in Kaduna. But you have a governor who came from Abuja. Now he wants to incur debt $350 million. That cannot be allowed. As far as we are concerned, Kaduna State is not qualified. He can curse us. He can call for violence against us. But we are taking a legal action on that. And I believe that if the federal government is not embracing the policy of double speak, it's not possible for a public office holder to be engaged in such hate speech. And again, nothing was done about it. So as far as we are concerned, the debt $350 million loan is a closed issue.
It's a closed matter.
Yeah, and nobody is going to raise it up again.